This right here gonna be a cakewalk.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. And today we got to talk about things that's going on with Evo, but also rule changes for Bandai Namco and a new update that they're basically putting out at the last minute for the game, competition, and the pro players. First off, for those of you who don't know, Bob new trailer will be shown before top 8. A lot of players are excited for this. Some people could care less, but it's exciting nonetheless, for me at least. And then as you can see here, this is day 3 schedule. You can see 2XKO will be running from 2 a.m., 1 p.m. I believe this is Evo time zone. And then Tekken 8 top 8. Before top 8 is where Bob will be taking place, but then after, Evo has here a special announcement. Now, we do not know what game this will be for. We can only speculate, but that is something that you do not want to miss. I will cover anything that's mentioned there, so you guys don't have to watch if you can't make it, but I definitely will cover it. Like, subscribe for that. Also, the Tekken developers have put out a tweet where they say, and I'll go ahead and read it, "We've confirmed the following behaviors for version 3.01.01. The details is as listed. In Tekken Ball, certain moves used by Kunimitsu can severely restrict the actions of opponents hit by kunai, allowing for one-sided offensive action. We plan to fix this in the next update, version 3.02. Now, 3.02 is probably the same update where Bob is said to show up. We don't know much about that update. We know this, but we also know that what they're currently doing right now for the dev portal is they're taking a little bit of feedback from the players, and they're trying to basically work on what it seems like a next balance update. I'll go ahead and read the quote that I posted to Twitter. It says, "Our development team reviews submissions on a daily basis to determine the priorities for bug fixes and balancing adjustments. In particular, we're currently prioritizing feedback submitted under battle-related bug and issues, especially reports regarding unintended behaviors and character move performance." So it sounds like they're working on a balanced update for the whole entire game, and that tweet there is just targeting what Kunimitsu is currently doing in Tekken Ball. Before we move on, I do want to once again mention that Tekken player heavenlykyle lost everything in a devastating house fire. He is turning to the community for support through his GoFundMe. If you're able to help with donations towards new furniture and a streaming PC, check the pinned comments for the link, also the description. With that being said, Bandai Namco has a new tweet here where it says some additional rule updates for Tekken World Tour 2026. So when we read this, you see that it says rules update, and then one is targeting coaching. We've made some updates to the rule set to address the usage of personal devices in matches. In addition to the standard coaching rules, the following has been added to the rule set. Personal electronics devices such as phones, computers, tablets, etc. during the match is not allowed. Reading written notes will only be allowed for the player that lost the previous set. Players may read written notes only one time during the match and for a maximum of 1 minute during that duration. It goes on to say using such devices as cell phones, computers, tablets, etc. during the match is no longer allowed. Players may bring written notes or be provided with written notes by their coach to review during coaching. This brought up some questions where players were wondering whether or not people could still listen to music. That's a big part of tournaments. That's a big part of what people do is listen to music, have headphones, but maybe they're outlawing that as well because they're really trying to target people who are communicating with others. You know, you see a lot of players playing a tournament, and then during the match they pick up their phone and start typing away as if they're texting. Some people in the past even took phone calls during the match. So Bandai Namco seems to be addressing all of this stuff that people get upset about with this rule here. The next rule says, and this is targeting match play. This is actually a response, a direct response to the Sin versus Rife situation that happened a couple of weeks ago. A match begins when the player enters "Get ready for the next battle" screen after the stage selection. Any disruption that takes place when a match begins are subject to rules in the match disruption section of the rule set. And that basically says match disruptions. If a player intentionally or accidentally causes a pause in a match, whether by pressing options button or by experiencing controller disconnection, the player that caused the pause will forfeit the current round of the set. If a match disruption occurs that is out of the control of the players, such as another player's unsynced controller or game software crash or console hardware failure, making the players unable to continue the set, the tournament organizer staff shall order the players to restart the set, but from the same round count from the point of the match disruption occurred. Players are responsible for starting a new set and holding forward for the necessary number of rounds to quickly return to the round count that was achieved before the match disruption. Now, there's a second portion of this that's very important, but first talking about this one. Starting the disconnection at the stage screen. A lot of people feel like this is too harsh, but some people kind of understand it. Bandai Namco is just sick of something happening during a rage art, during the intro, during this, during that, and then they get blowback for it. So they're just saying, all right, soon as you get to the get ready for the next battle, everything should be prepared and ready. And if not, you will be docked. And I kind of can't blame them for putting this overarching broad scope on it, because every single time something like this happens, everyone gets upset at them. So this is just their, solution to say, okay, these are the rules, play like this. If not, you're cooked. But here's the thing: inevitable defeat. If a match disruption occurs during a move or animation and after the game has been unpaused, the round ends with no further inputs from either player. A player that caused a match disruption will not forfeit the current round set. And this part here is specifically addressing the Wraith versus Sin match. Sin did Yoshimitsu, I believe it was forward 2. He hit Jin. It was a counter hit, by the way. And after he hit Jin, like he literally phased through him, the controller disconnected. And the TOs awarded Wraith the point for that, when really Jin was dead as soon as he got counter hit by forward 2. It's a move that has a slow animation, and that animation did enough damage to kill him outright. So you can see that they're addressing that by saying, if your controller disconnects and you're basically delivering a kill blow with an animation, a heat smash, or a rage art, you still win. But if your controller interrupts any point before that, then you don't win. Now, as for Sin says on Twitter, you know what's funny? At Mix-Up, I got penalized for my controller disconnection after to get ready for the next battle, but before round 1 fight. I reconnected again. However, this rule was not implemented yet. So what they did is they penalized me on a non-existing rule. So that's kind of how he's saying it, right? Because the controller disconnected twice during the set, and he was penalized for one thing and not the other. So now, basically, if you were to apply this rule to that situation, he would still be breaking the rules nonetheless, and the outcome would not be changed. Sin also posted a breakdown of what happened behind the scenes during that situation, and I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I will just kind of summarize it. So when the match ended, he seen a tweet from Spaghetti Rip where he was tweeting out the rules. Sin, knowing that he didn't violate any rules and he shouldn't have been docked a point, went to the TOs to get a rematch going. They first agreed, and then his opponent, Wraith, heavily debated with them, and that debate lasted for like an hour or so, and it resulted in the TOs going back on their word and declining Sin of said rematch. So he was basically robbed twice, one during the game and one after the fact. And this rule change for Bandai Namco is very important because it will prevent all of this from happening in the future. I did see some people kind of being upset at Bandai Namco for putting this information out like a day or so before the tournament actually gets going. A lot of people are in transit. Some people may not see this tweet. Some people may not be able to, like, okay, let me get my phone, let me get a paper, take all the notes that I need, and then do this and do that, because you guys know that there's websites out there that you can use on your phone that has frame data, and people could look up that stuff mid-match, mid-this, but not anymore. So if Bandai Namco decides to update the rules like this again, they should try to give players a little bit more of a heads up, because they know, 1 to 2 days away from the tournament, everyone's in transit. Everyone is kind of like there, and you can't really do extra things at that point. I understand that Bandai Namco want to stop all the controversy that's been going on with the tournaments regarding a lot of the gray areas and rules. But it really is kind of unfortunate that a lot of the people who listen to music and that's kind of how they lock in, it seems like those guys will be impacted. We'll see whether or not when we're watching the tournament, if there's any people wearing headsets, any people wearing earphones, and how the TOs go about responding to that. Because if you have the phone in your pocket and the music is playing, I personally don't see a problem with that. But at the same time, someone could have called their friend on the phone, put it in their pocket, put their earphones in, and then go on stage. Another thing you have to think about as well is these rules largely only apply to what's happening on stage. When you're at the pools, it isn't as heavily monitored, and there's a lot more things that happen there. Like, for example, people sit there and coach the whole time during the set. The 1 minute rule doesn't apply there. We will see how Bandai Namco moves forward. They're obviously trying to stop all the controversy. If we start to see people performing better or worse, we'll know why.